So by the end of this video, you'll have something almost nobody else has. An AI that actually knows you, your classes, your notes, your projects, your goals, your writing style, even the way you like to think. Not because you have to explain it every time you open Claude, but because you set it up once. That's what we're building today. Not a prompt, not a clever trick, a system. It takes about 30 minutes, you do it once before the semester begins, and then it pays you back every single week. Most students use Claude like a search engine. They open a chat, ask one question, get one answer, and close a tab. Then they do it all over again the next time. That's like buying a Ferrari and only ever driving it around the parking lot. Claude is capable of so much more than that. It can become a system that actually understands your life. And once you've built that system, every video after this gets a lot more interesting. We'll build a calendar that runs itself, dashboards for your classes, a system that quietly helps you prepare for internships and full-time jobs. But all of it starts here, so let's build the foundation. Now, real quick, why I am the one walking you through this. I'm a professor of political economy and public policy at UC San Diego, and for more than a decade, I've taught students heading into analyst, research, and consulting careers. AI is new for all of us. Nobody has 10 years of experience using these tools. They're simply too new. But over the last few semesters, I've watched hundreds of students bring AI into their work. Some use it incredibly well, most don't. Not because they're lazy, but because nobody ever taught them how to build a system around it. I use Claude every day for my own research and teaching. I've made plenty of mistakes. I've figured out what scales and what turns into a mess. Everything I'm showing you in this series is the setup I actually use myself. It's also the setup I wish every one of my students had before they walked into my classroom. So here's a roadmap. We are going to build 5 things together. The first 4 are quick, just follow along, and the 5th one is the one almost nobody thinks to do. But it's also the one that quietly starts preparing you for internships and full-time jobs long before you're actually applying. So whether you're heading into your senior year or starting a master's program, the setup is exactly the same. So let's build it. Move 1, teach Claude who you are. This is the only part of today's setup you'll probably never have to do again. So let me show you where it lives. Down in the bottom left corner, click your initials, go to settings, then under profile, you'll see a box called instructions for Claude. Almost everybody ignores that box, which is a mistake, because whatever you put in there, Claude reads before every single conversation you ever have. So you're not writing instructions for one chat, you're teaching Claude how to work with you from now on. Now, I'm going to make this easy. I've already written these instructions for you. They're in the description below, so you can copy them, paste them into the box, and customize the parts that are about you. So let me explain what's actually in them. The first section tells Claude who you are, your major, whether you're a senior or a master's student, the kinds of careers you're thinking about, anything that's genuinely true about you. Because if Claude knows who it's helping, its answers stop being generic. The second section tells Claude how you write. Not what to write, how to write. Short sentences, plain language, no unnecessary fluff. The goal is simple. When Claude helps you write something, it should still sound like you. And then the third section changes how Claude works with you. I tell it not just to agree with me. If my reasoning is weak, I want it to tell me. If it isn't sure about something, I want it to say so. I'd rather have an honest answer than a confident one that's wrong. And then there's the last section. This one's my favorite. Whenever I'm trying to understand something, I don't want Claude to immediately give me the answer. I want it to ask me what I think first. Because you can't outsource the writing, you can't outsource the calculations, you cannot outsource the understanding. That's still your job. Now, sometimes you genuinely just need the answer, and that's fine. Just tell Claude, just give it to me, and it'll stop coaching and answer directly. So that's it. 5 minutes, one time. And from now on, every conversation starts with Claude already knowing who it's talking to. Now, move 2, give Claude one place to understand your life. So before we touch Claude again, we are going to do something on your computer, because this is the foundation for everything else we'll build now and later. So create one folder, call it Life HQ. That's it. From now on, this is where everything important lives. Inside it, create a folder for each of your classes. Policy analysis, microeconomics, regression and statistics, whatever you're taking this semester. Then start adding folders for the rest of your life. Your workouts, your finances, your apartment, your grocery list, your side projects, anything that's genuinely part of your life. And so here's why this matters. We are not organizing folders here, although that's what we're doing. We are organizing context. Every dashboard we build later, your calendar, your study dashboards, your career tools, they all get built from this one place. Claude doesn't have to hunt through 5 different drives trying to figure out what's going on. It reads one folder. And from that one folder, it understands your life. That's why everything has to live under one roof. One folder, one source of truth. Now, if you keep Life HQ inside Google Drive or Dropbox or iCloud, even better. Now it's backed up and available on all your devices. Just make sure that the files are also stored locally on your computer because Claude Desktop can't read files that only exist in the cloud. So now let's connect it. Create a new Claude project for each class. Microeconomics gets connected to the microeconomics folder. Statistics gets connected to statistics, and so on. So notice what we are not doing here. We are not copying files into Claude. The files stay exactly where they are, and Claude simply gets permission to see them. Drop a new lecture into your microeconomics folder tomorrow. Claude already knows it's there. The moment you get your syllabus, put it in the class folder. That one document gives Claude the entire shape of the semester. The topics, the assignments, the exams, the deadlines. We'll use all of that in the next video when we build your calendar. For today, just build Life HQ. Everything else starts there. Now, Claude knows where your life lives. Move 3, give Claude access to live information. Right now, Claude can see your files, but your life doesn't just live in files. It changes. Professors send emails, deadlines move, meetings get announced. That's what we're connecting now. Down in the bottom left corner, click Search and Tools, then open Connectors. Or you can get there through Settings. The first one I recommend connecting is your email. If you use Gmail, connect Gmail. If you use Outlook, connect Outlook. It takes about 30 seconds, and once it's connected, Claude can finally see what's changing. That email where your professor moved the midterm, the announcement about tomorrow's review session, the club meeting you forgot about, they're no longer buried in your inbox. Claude can find them. If some of your files still live in Google Drive or Dropbox, you can connect those as well. But honestly, the cleaner solution is to move everything into Life HQ. One home is always easier than 5. Now at this point, Claude knows who you are, it knows where your information lives, and it knows when your life changes. So move 4, give Claude hands. So before we finish, there's one more thing you need, the Claude desktop app. And while you're at it, install the phone app too. Now here's why the desktop app matters. I think of it this way. The browser version is smart, but the desktop app is smart and it has hands. It can open your folders, it can read your files, it can save new files back where they belong. So the browser can't do that. The browser can make you a document, sure, then it hands it to you and says, you deal with it. The desktop app actually works with your files. That's why every dashboard we built in this series runs on the desktop app. Now, the phone app is useful for a completely different reason. Ideas never show up when you're sitting at your desk. They show up while you're walking across campus, driving home, waiting in line for coffee. So you're not gonna pull out your laptop and start typing when the ideas come. Instead, you open Claude, tap the microphone, and just talk. Maybe you just had a meeting with your project group. Maybe your professor said something important after class. Maybe you finally figured out the outline for your paper. Capture it while it's fresh. When you get home, it's already sitting inside Life HQ, ready to use. So now let's look at what we've built. Claude knows who you are, it knows where your life lives, it knows what's changing, and now it can actually work with your files. That's a very different thing from a chatbot. So move 5, build a memory for your future self. So there's one more folder I want you to create, and call it Career Compass. And this one has almost nothing to do with today, it's about a year from now. Because here's what's going to happen. Eventually, you'll be applying for internships or graduate school or your first full-time job. And when that day comes, you're going to sit down in front of a blank page and ask yourself, what did I actually do this year? I promise you, you won't remember, because nobody does. The paper you were proud of, the project where you solved a difficult problem, the time you stepped up during a club event, the idea you had during your internship, most of these things will disappear. Not because it wasn't important, but because life just keeps on moving. And Career Compass, this folder, fixes that. Whenever you finish something you're proud of, drop it into the folder. A paper, a presentation, an analysis, a spreadsheet, anything. And then there's my favorite part. Remember the microphone on your phone? This is where it really shines. You're walking back from work, you finish a volunteer event, you wrap up a group meeting, open Claude, hit the microphone and just talk for 30 seconds. For example, you say something like, "Today I had to manage the morning rush by myself. I finally figured out how to organize the team's workflow," or "I gave my first presentation without notes." That's it. Don't polish it. Don't write a resume bullet. Just capture the moment while it's still fresh. Because you're not building a resume, at least not yet. You're just building a memory from which you can draw the inputs for when you build your resume. A year from now, when everyone else is trying to remember what they've done, you won't have to remember. You already have the evidence, and more importantly, you'll already have the story. Because people don't get hired by lists. They get hired by convincing stories backed by real examples. So Career Compass quietly builds that story while you're busy living it. So now, Claude doesn't just know about your past, it starts helping build your future. So let's step back for a second here. Look at what you've actually built today. Claude knows who you are, it knows how you think, it knows where your life lives, it knows what's changing, and now it also knows where you're trying to go. So that's not a chatbot anymore. That's the foundation of a personal AI system. And now we can start building on top of it. In the next video, we're going to use everything we built today to create something I genuinely think is better than any calendar I've ever used. Not because it has prettier colors, which it will, but because it actually understands your life. It reads your syllabi, your email, your notes, your commitments, and it builds a calendar that updates itself. I think it's going to change the way you think about planning. So I'll see you in that next video.